أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعلني وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي أشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu everyone. Inshallah, we're going to continue with the supreme sign from the book The Rays. So we are on page 196 of the book of The Rays. And I remember this was more about the sustenance and the human needs that we have. So the author was explaining the provisions that are of two kinds. One is the essential needs of the human beings, and he discusses about how the provision that you get, the functioning in your body, the fats that's stored in your human body, how that is arranged, cannot be arranged by yourself or the food itself. So that kind of provision is always there, guaranteed. So every living being gets its share of the provision, and all that is arranged and guaranteed. So that's one provision. And then there was another kind of provision that was more it was referred to as the metaphorical or the artificial provision. And these are some of maybe the civilization imposes us some particular needs, and that there's no certainty you may get it or you may not get it. At least that's what the author was presenting, that there are, I'm just going to read a little bit. So yeah, arising due to addiction from habit, wastefulness, and misuse, but acquiring the appearance of necessity. So that's why it is referred to as metaphorical or artificial, because it's maybe, let's say, like the insurance policy is something that is made up, and it could be, your car has to be insured. So that is not really a necessity, but it's an artificial kind of thing that has been added. Just, how civilization imposes maybe a way of dressing in a particular brand of culture of clothing, that is also artificial. So maybe in living in a particular neighborhood, or all those are civilization, societal imposed, and they're not the true necessity. And that you may get sometimes, you may not get it, depends on whoever is arranging this. But it's not guaranteed by the sustainer, but depends on his generosity. Sometimes he may give it, sometimes he may not give it. So two forms of provision. And we discussed that from what I remember. And there was also the discussion on a touch base on the frugality aspect. And there was a comment that was made on how not to waste the provision that we're getting is by acknowledging, realizing where that provision is coming from. So even though you may be wearing the clothes or the shoes, but you know that those are given to you by the one who arranges the whole universe. So it comes from his generosity, his will. And if we do not acknowledge the one who is providing all that provision, then that's what would constitute as waste. So not understanding where the food that we're eating is coming from, the clothing we're wearing, the house we're living in, the shelter, and whatever we're doing is coming, that all that provision is coming from the one who arranges the whole universe. Faria, you have a comment?
So we're talking about two kinds of provisions in terms of different types of needs that the human being has. One is like you're saying, basic need of sustenance. You know, I'm given hunger, I'm given thirst, I'm given this need to utilize my skills to do something. So that's the basic needs that we're all given. Need to procreate, need to extend the family, stuff like that. These basic kind of needs, those are one. And the second one is the need which I acquire from societal influence, where you touched upon where like these are not necessities, but it's just because I live in a society where everybody's doing it. Everybody's let's say wearing, like you were saying, a specific designer's clothing, or living in a particular neighborhood, that kind of need. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so there are two kinds of need. Okay, good. So that's how we are. Is there anything wrong with the second kind of need?
Nothing wrong, as long as the frugality aspect where you acknowledge where the thing is coming from.
The only thing is you have to work hard to get this provision for the artificial needs.
You have to struggle a lot.
A lot. The costs a lot. So that is why we are running, and no one getting the end.
Yeah.
And the bills.
It becomes a rat
no
race.
Paid easily. That's the reality.
Unfortunately, the artificiality can get deep into us, and we really have to struggle a lot with that to fulfill those particular needs. That's why I'm a proponent of a simple life. So I think the author will start with the examples, and so we'll move over to the discussion. Over to that half page of page 196 where the example starts. So, for example, it is one of the activities of dominicality to cause every area of the broad realm of dominicality to rejoice. It is one of the activities of dominicality to cause every area of the broad realm of dominicality to rejoice. The heavens are caused to rejoice with the angels and spirit beings. The heavens are caused to rejoice with the angels and spirit beings. The world of the unseen with spirits, and the material world, particularly the air and the earth, with the existence of all animate beings, particularly birds, great and small, at all times and places. Through the wisdom of this causing to rejoice and the infusion of life and spirit, animals and men are, as it were, whipped by the need for provision and the pleasure they take therein to pursue their provision and sustenance, thus being delivered from sloth or laziness. This too is one of the wise activities of dominicality. So the fact that the human beings are whipped by the need for provision and the pleasure they take therein to pursue their provision and sustenance is part of the wise activities of dominicality, the way we are made to do that. Were it not for such significant instances of wisdom, the provision destined for animals would be caused instinctively to hasten toward them to satisfy their needs without any effort on their part. Just as provision and sustenance is caused to hasten towards the tree. So like a tree does not have to struggle like an animal or a human being to get its provision. And there's wisdom in that. The wisdom for the human being is to see the activity that is going on and to realize, because human beings are conscious beings. So one point also that the author spoke about was all the tools that we are given, the eyes, the ears, the heart, the feelings, they also need their provision. And exactly this way, that this example shows that why everything that is in the universe is basically all the activities shows that there is an actor behind all that is happening there. And he discusses about, the author talks about the dominicality to rejoices, the heavens and are caused to rejoice with the angels and spirit beings. Of course, this shows that all this activity is not for nothing. There is a meaning behind all of these things. And that should take us to acknowledge and get to know who the organizer, who is the nurturer, who is the actual provident giver, who gives us the provision. The air and the earth and the existence of all animate beings, particularly birds, great and small at all times. Through the wisdom of this causing to rejoice and the infusion of life and spirit, causing to rejoice. And so when you work on something, you get something, there is you're happy that you accomplished something, a task. So activity is necessary because that's how every living being gets their share of joy and excitement.
Right, so thank you. So that's the point that is being brought up in this paragraph, the example. And I'm going to take your last statement, which is powerful. Activity is needed at every age and stage of one's life. We have to keep striving for something. In other words, there's no retirement. Like you have to keep doing something because it's given for a particular purpose. And so once we utilize ourselves, then there's enjoyment in it. Like you were saying, gotta keep doing some activities, then there's enjoyment in it. Otherwise, it's just plain and boring. I become old and I die as an old man. No, like, hey, I'm old, I'm retired, but I have time right now. Time is given to me, so I gotta do something. What is it that I wanna do? Keep going and connecting this experience to what it points to.
Yeah, and it would also waste all the tools that we've been given. Your intellect, your consciousness, your hands. So then we would just be like a tree or a plant, but we're not like a tree or a plant. So we are given all these other things that makes us a human being. So they have to be used.
So for the human being, we have to put an effort into it. We have to use our free choice. Because the author is giving the example of anything else like the tree or animals. So the way things are set up, it's worked out for them. So right now it's raining here in the Northeast. So maybe hot, dry weather, some of the dry crops needed or the trees needed this kind of nourishment.
Yeah.
As far as the human being is concerned, that need or that dryness is given to us. So we do something to to rejoice in it. Like there's enjoyment in keeping on working hard to achieve results. Thank you.
Yeah, supposedly there's supposed to be enjoyment. Anybody else would like to comment on that?
It's interesting. I'm trying to understand this paragraph, the example. Why would the author give this for me? How can I apply it to my case?
All right, friends, anybody would like to comment on this paragraph? Do this. Brother, do you have anything?
Although I would say, you know, the stages of life we observe here, younghood, adulthood, middle-aged and old man. You know, the people want to do a lot before retirement. And then once retirement, I guess, from the worldly affairs, once that's reached, I think there's still this fuel of motivation that needs to be backed up to do something, to achieve results. I mean, right, that's why life is given to us. Although, you know, the way society teaches, oh yeah, retire by 30, you know, do the work hard, like in your 20s, in your 30s, retire, do this, retire by 30, 40, that's awesome. But then what? We're still given abilities and tools until our last breath. So we have to keep, like you were saying, working it out, activity to get it done. So,
Thank you. All right, so let's continue. Were there to be an eye capable of witnessing and comprehending the whole surface of the earth at one time, in order to perceive the beauties of the names of compassionate and provider, and the witness they bear to divine unity, it would see what sweet beauty is contained in the tender and solicitous manifestation of the compassionate provider, who sends to the caravans of animals at the end of winter, when their provision is about to be exhausted, extremely delicious, abundant, and varied foods and bounties, drawn exclusively from his unseen treasury of mercy, a succor from the unseen and divine generosity placed in the hands of plants, the crowns of trees, placed in the hands of plants, which are the crowns of trees, and the breasts of mothers. The possessor of that all-seeing eye would realize the following. The making of a single apple and the generous giving of it to man as true sustenance and provision can be accomplished only by a being who causes the cosmos, who causes the seasons, the nights and the days to rotate. The sustenance and provision can be accomplished only by a being who causes the seasons, the nights and the days to rotate, who causes the globe to revolve like a cargo ship, and thus brings the fruits of the seasons within reach of those needy guests of the earth who stand waiting for them. For the stamp of its nature, the seal of wisdom, the imprint of eternal besottedness, the signet of mercy, that is to be found on the surface of the apple, is to be found also on all apples and other fruits, plants, and animals. Hence, the true maker, master of the apple, is bound to be the glorious sovereign, the beauteous creator of all the inhabitants of the world, who are the peers, the congeners, and the brothers of the apple, of the vast earth that is the garden of the apple, of the tree of the cosmos that is its factory, of the seasons that are its workshop, and of the spring and summer that are its place of maturing. So another example on how the eye can witness, or the human being can see how the provision is coming, from what source it's coming. If we realize this, I mean, I know we keep hearing the example that, let's say we never saw a plant coming out of a seed, and we just sow the seed into the soil, and there's water and sunlight that comes, and then the plant or shoot comes out of that seed. And we've never witnessed this before. I mean, isn't that that's like a miracle that happens? This is how the universe is supposed to be looked at. Everything we see is given existence. I mean, what can give existence to anything in this world? Any plant, any seed, any fruit, any vegetable, any bird. So, yeah, and he gives examples: the hands of the plants, the crowns of trees, the breasts of mothers. And what is it that we are going to realize? Look at how all these point to, these are all signs indicating that who is the being that is the one who is nurturing and providing to everything in this world. And the example of the apple becomes like every other being as the brother, because every being is in need of sustenance in their own way. And you can see that the whole earth is like the garden, just made for that apple to come into existence. And the tree and the universe is like a tree, which is where all this activity is happening. So it's like a factory, this whole universe. And the seasons are, particular times are the workshop. Spring and summer is when they are actually, let's say, delivered from the factory, or released if the product is released.
When we are told that there is a magician performing a presence or a program on TV, what do? They appear on the screen and they take a hat and put their hand in it, and they show that, look, there's nothing in it. Okay, sure, audience. Okay, and then there is nothing in it. Yeah, and then put his hand and takes up, and usually they play some trick. So the rabbit comes out. Yeah. We call it, it is magic. Okay, this is magic. Why? There's a trick in it. We know that there is a trick, but this is magic. And what's happening in the world is that, like, say, there is a shell, and in the small egg, or a cell, and a rabbit comes out of it. And here is the soil, and a tree or a plant comes out of it. Look at the whole universe. He said, the example said, if you had a view, if it was possible to see the whole earth, the bottom of the oceans, in the soil, in the air, and see the animal beings, how they are fed, how they are brought into existence, how they are fed, how their life conditions are organized. Every stage of their life is a magic. It's a magic. It means there is something inexplicable happening there. People reduce it to saying that something in the cell is accidentally developing itself. That is a very ugly insult, what is going on in the world. Accidentally happening, and the rabbit is coming out of real rabbit, not real rabbit is coming out of the empty head, accidentally developed. Or I don't know what they mean by it. I think we have to be very sensitive about this kind of words, this kind of claims, that the best program for millions of different species developed accidentally by themselves in the perfect way. And the butterflies are perfect. Caterpillars are perfect. All kinds of trees are perfect. Oh, millions of different kinds of fish are perfect. All the bugs are, how many kinds of bugs are there? Are all perfect. Perfectly arranged, independently from each other. But all of them happened by chance. I think this, a person who can claim this, I say, okay, you will go to hell by chance. It happened by chance, man. So you will see this obstinate attitude towards the wonderful, magical creation, act of creation, deliberately arranged. Now, isn't that obvious? I mean, how can a reasonable man say that the DNA structure happened to be for how many kinds of beings? Millions. Are they all perfect? Yes, perfect. But it developed like this. How can I develop while I cannot fit into the world and survive and become a fit person or fit creature? During this period, I wouldn't be able to survive. That is why they cannot really find any remnants, how are they called? Fossils of these in the middle of perfection creatures. Millions or trillions of them must be found. Yeah, they found similar ones, I don't know, and then they make up. So they found one piece of bone, and imagine a person or a being and his social life out of it. Just total speculation. Total speculation, looking at the world and making it like it. So they found the teeth or a jaw of fossil and make it an image of it in the form of between man and a a chimpanzee. Like the forehead is front side, somehow looks like chimpanzee somehow looks like a human being. Did you see the flesh of this creature? The skin, the meat, and the real shape? No. I don't know how they can really cheat people by making stories out of it. They say, you see that the bones or jaw is a bit backward, like, I don't know, in order to make it in between. It is just total interpretation of one thing. It is just one thing. How about millions of other species developed, and where are the fossils? Yeah. In between fossils? Where are the in between fossils? Who couldn't survive and die. And when they die, they cannot develop. My mind cannot really see any wisdom in it. If something cannot fit into the, as they call it, environment, nature, cannot survive, cannot continue, it is new generations. So that the new generation will evolve by itself, accidentally. Although there is nothing acting in the world on the base of accident. Everything follows the order of the universe. There is no accident. So do you say, I developed, one of my cells is acting accidentally? Can you say that? Nothing can act without obeying the already established order of the universe. Whoever established this order is the one managing the terms used, dominance over everything, consciously, deliberately, with an unimaginable capacity. That is why people cannot really grasp unimaginable absoluteness of the Creator, because they are conditioning themselves to think within the conditions of this world. And they keep asking this. There's a hadith, this interesting hadith narration in Bukhari. The Prophet said, don't be carried away by a person who asks you, who created this? Who created this? Who created this? If you follow him, eventually he will tell you that who created God then? Because your answer is supposed to be God created, God created. And this hadith points out, interestingly, that don't ask who created this, but ask, is this thing needs to be given existence? That's what the hadith is inferring. So don't look at the case saying that who is the creator of this, unless you establish that this thing needs to be created. So you have to start from the thing itself. Look at it. Can it come accidentally into existence? What is coming into existence accidentally? Let alone accidentally. What does it coming into existence mean? Something needs to exist. And what is the source of its existence? Because this thing cannot happen to be accidentally out of blue, no. So hadith is, as you see it, the Prophet is prohibiting to ask this question. No, it is a methodology establishing for the minds of the people, start from the thing. Look at this. For example, I have this machine in my hand, and this machine, look, I have to question this. Who made this machine? No, it's the wrong start. Look at the machine. Does it need to be made by a conscious being? Now ask this question. Then is there any consciousness inside or somewhere in the machine? No. So how it became a machine? How did it exist like this? So you require that, oh, let me examine the machine. Which kind of qualities are manifesting on it? This is the method the prophet is teaching. Maybe the first audience didn't get this as deeply as it needs to be, but in this age, when we read this hadith, we say, oh, it is a great methodology, discarding, rejecting all these false claims by establishing this method of starting from the made things or the thing themselves. I was amazed when you read that, oh, what is that? Really, the prophet, as an illiterate man, would not be able to know what will happen in 20 centuries afterwards, that the people will claim that if you, who created this or who created this, and they will say, who created God? This false notion comes from the conclusion, who created God, because the mind of certain people, if you don't really free your mind, what you will say, God must be like one of the created beings. So that you will say, who created God? If something so obvious, though, that's what the prophet says, no, don't do this. This way of thinking is false, baseless, because it brings you to this conclusion of thinking God in terms of created beings, so that you will look for a creator for it. Do you understand the very delicate message ingrained in this very short hadith, 3 lines or something, 4 lines, no, 3 lines. Wow, I was amazed that the prophet is teaching the people, you cannot think of the creator of the world in terms of created beings. By its own nature of existence, status of existence, created things are the things that are dependent in their existence, but their source of existence cannot be dependent in its existence or its existence on anything else. Otherwise, he or it cannot be a creator, bringing things into existence. So they couldn't understand that the creator must be self-existing, self-sustaining, absolute being. That is human logic concludes. This methodology, in a very simple way of explanation presented by the prophet to human beings, so that 20th century, 21st century people will find an already methodology how to reason. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much.
So this is like the phrase La ilaha, starting
Started
from La ilaha. Like there's no looking at the thing, the example of your machine or phone or anything, seeing if there's anything that can give existence within the thing itself, question it, and then see that there is no such thing, and then you can proceed further ahead. Thank you, Brother Ali. Any other comments by anyone? All right, so we will continue then. So where were we? In other words, Every fruit is a seal of unity that makes known the writer and maker of the earth, its tree, and of the book of the universe, its garden. Every fruit is a seal of unity that makes known the writer and maker of the earth, its tree, and of the book of the universe, its garden. It demonstrates his unity and shows to the number of fruits the seal affixed to the decree of unity. Since the Risale Nur is a manifestation of the names of all compassionate and all wise, and numerous flashes and mysteries of the truth of compassionateness have been expounded and proved in many parts of the Risale Nur, we leave further discussion of the matter to those parts and content ourselves with this brief indication. Out of a vast treasury, on account of the unfavorable circumstances from which we are now suffering, our traveler now says, "Praise be to God. I have seen and heard 33 truths bearing witness to the necessary existence and unity of the Creator and Sovereign. I was everywhere seeking and inquiring after. I was everywhere seeking and inquiring after. Each of the truths is bright as the sun and leaves no darkness behind. It is as strong and unshakable as a mountain. Each of them with its verifications, each of these truths with its verifications, bears decisive witness to his existence. And with its comprehensiveness, proves his unity in manifest fashion, while proving implicitly all the pillars of faith. The totality and consensus of these truths causes our belief to advance from imitation to realization. While proving implicitly all the pillars of faith, the totality and consensus of these truths causes our belief to advance from imitation to realization, and then from realization to knowledge of certainty, and then from knowledge of certainty to vision of certainty, and from the vision of certainty to absolute certainty. Praise be to God. This is from the bounty of my sustainer. So this is how the witnessing of when we witness the universe, do we see this? Every fruit is a seal of unity. So everything in creation points to the maker, or the example Brother Ali was giving about how to look at the world, like the egg, and we think that the chick came from the egg, but it's all just magic. Everything is given existence, and it shows us that whoever is arranging and organizing it is the source behind it. I mean, neither the shell of the egg, neither the liquid in it or anything, or the chicken itself is unaware of what the result will be. Just like the tree doesn't know how, can it call the sun, hey, shine at me, shine at me? Can it call on the rain, hey, I need some water, you can call the air or the atmosphere. It has no clue, but everything is arranged. And all this points to the one who is the maker of the universe, the source of existence of the universe. And this is, I think, what the author refers to as the names of all compassionate and all wise, and the mysteries of the truth of compassionateness. So all the qualities of generosity, providence, compassion, mercy are witnessed by us conscious human beings with whatever the activities that are going on as we see them. And that's why our conclusion becomes, all praise be to God. So from the, just not, the last part of it, like the belief advances from imitation to realization to knowledge of certainty to the vision of certainty, and from the vision of certainty to absolute certainty. Would anyone like to comment on this part? Any friends would like to say anything?
I guess the word realization is what's standing out, where it's all a matter of recognizing things, identifying things, or just the hadiths that Brother Ali shared, mindset, shifting of the mindset. So when my starting point is like smooth, I don't want to say correct, but like the way it's got to be, where I converse with the universe just like normally, regularly, without any what's your maker, let me see what you are. You kind of give a toy to a kid, they kind of explore it and everything, and from there you wonder, like look into its functionalities. And so when you start recognizing the functionalities and connecting it to how is it manifested, what can be the source of existence of it, and then there's the realization of, wow, the universe itself is not the source of existence of me, you, the tree, or anything. Everything is in need to be created, or just like a seed that's sown into the soil, water, everything. You're like, wait, there are different kinds of seed. Soil, water is like the order that we follow, but they're producing different kind of shoots. You have apple tree, orange tree, flowers, whatever, but like the seed is the same, and soil is the same, water is the same. Like it's mind-boggling. How do I understand this? So I guess just going through this exploration, and you realize that this matter, water, soil, sunlight, cannot be it cannot be the source of existence of the tree that comes mysteriously. It's mysterious. Even like rain, it's raining right now. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like the whole canopy of the sky is covered in gray. But there's a realization that leads me to knowledge in terms of, I would know that the things themselves are not the source of existence of it, but there must be a necessarily existent one. And so that gives me a vision of there must be a necessarily existent one. So that was it.
So you kind of move by witnessing and confirming or verifying. It's like a ascension that happens from one stage to the next.
So the traveler has gone through, I mean, the first part and the second part of this section of the book, seventh reign, says altogether 33 stages went through.
Right.
As he was going,
Progressed.
traveling, he's making a progress. First, seeing, understanding that there's something very interesting. And then further ahead going, yeah, I can really realize it. I can really realize what I see in this stages of journey of really trying to understand the truth that I can learn from the creation of this world, of existence of this universe. The 33, maybe the author made it on purpose. The 33 stages is referring to the advice of the prophet that we have to say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah 33 times, because it is also, it must be one of the intention of the author, why we are saying each time, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, we have to use this phrase, or what the content of this phrase, in order to make a journey into the deeper meaning of what we are concluding through our realization. So this realization process brings us to from first knowledge, and then really certainty about it, being being absolutely sure, third conviction that these evidence I see in the world, I experience in the world, as we saw it through 33 stages, all went, the journey started from the evidence existent here, and then concluded something to the and something not belonging to the universe, but the source of existence of the universe. Describing, everything is describing the source of existence of the universe. So we have to go through this stage, why we are also making this remembrance of the fundamental phrases we learn from the Quran. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, etc. This is a very beautiful way of presenting how we should make firm our belief in what we claim to believe, making it further and further to reach this absolute certainty within ourselves. That I am the witness of it. My existence is the witness of the truth that I am the product of an absolutely conscious creator of everything. So,
yeah, thank you, Brother Lee, for bringing that up. In terms of the author also mentions about the pillars of faith, how the journey of the man goes through the different stages, each confirming along the way. You know, we just take the pillars of faith just for granted, but they need to be worked on. They need to be confirmed. We need to live with that pillars of faith to make them real for us. You know, how we believe in God, the angels, the books, all the journey of the author, you know, how he went to the saints and scholars and to the institution of prophethood.
people say nowadays, people are, if you like, clever, not to say that the things are coming out of earth, and also the air molecule or light, whatever rays, are the makers of the animate beings, although they are materials. We can see in them, but they say, no, 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 it is not making them. What is the sort of there being certain category, certain kinds of species, creatures, every creature? They say, oh, the DNA, the program. Although it is we discussed on it, it's an accidentally developed perfect program. I think we have to understand the simple logic that they are presenting to human beings and cheating human beings, especially those young people who cannot really understand what is going on behind these false presentations. We can understand that, for example, there are 4 different projects, 4 is different, but 5 different projects for 5 different buildings. They say, look, they are using the same material. But because of the project is different, it means the plan for each of them is different.
The outcome.
So using the same material, but different buildings come up. Yeah, you say, oh yeah, it's very logical. But how about the existence of perfect different plans? How about how to make it practice? It means make the building an action. Who is the agent, or what is the agent of this action? These agents of this action must know, be conscious, and they must have free will to obey the project. Accordingly, they will put the material in their right places as the project shows. What are the conscious actions are performed? What is the source of existence of these conscious actions doing? What are they doing? Who is? The matter which is employed, the material which is employed in the body of the building doesn't have consciousness, doesn't have free will, power, doesn't have any project or projections towards future that I will do this so that something will come out of it. Doesn't have any capacity to know what the future is. So who is the agent of these actions, especially who is the agent behind making these different projects perfectly consistent within themselves, millions of different projects. And continuously the project is renewing itself on top of this. And nothing is like the building. Every stage of existence is perfect within itself. So this perfection continues stage by stage, and this continuation of the perfection completes itself in the total perfection of the existence, and then disappearing it, taking it, bringing in new projections. Which kind of arrangement? What are the agents of these arrangements? No answer. That's why they don't question the source of existence of what they are claiming at all. For example, they say the thing adapts himself to the environment. Why? They say, for example, the human beings or the animate beings want to reproduce. It means have children. Why? Where did they get this idea of needing for reproducing? It is a completely idea. Mm-hmm. It is not matter. It needs definitely consciousness. What is the sign of consciousness within the DNA? Now the answer is so ridiculous. oh, we don't know, even we don't know, but it seems to be functioning in this way. Seems to be? What do you mean? You are blocking your mind that to the possibility that there must be an agent, otherwise it is inexplicable. It is irrational to say that it seems to be acting in itself, so it is happening by chance. For example, looking at the baby, clear example, it is developing, it seems to be, it is developing itself, growing, becoming a young person. It seems to be. So it is the baby who is making himself into a young person, accidentally, developing and becoming a perfect young man. Which kind of reason? Wherever you want to handle this ideology, which is very prevalent all over the world now, everywhere falls down. No logical consistency in their defense, but they take a big pictures of, we see what is going on in the cell. Yeah, you can see it is possible. You understand that the technology developed by imitating or following the order of the universe. We understand that it doesn't mean that it will justify your interpretation of coming into existence. We are not saying this cell is in and of itself perfect, but we are saying the claim that it happened to be accidentally in the course of billions of years is just a speculation. No evidence for it. So that is why I think this is important to think of it globally, like all over the earth, to think that millions of different species at the same time perfectly carrying on their life, and perfectly they are taken away from life. Nothing is in my hand. I cannot stop aging, I cannot stop dying. And if a conscious being, I cannot stop, do you think my DNA can stop? Which is made up of simple matter. Again, matter. What kind of reasoning? Okay, sorry. So I think we are
almost at the end. Yeah, let's finish the page. Next page, Bismillah. So this is the verse. Praise be to God who guided us to this. Verily, we would not have been guided unless God had guided us. The messengers of God have come to us with the truth. This is Quran chapter 7, verse 43. In extremely brief allusion to the lights of belief derived by our inquisitive traveler from the four sublime truths he witnessed at the third stopping place, it was said in the second chapter of the first station concerning the truths of the third stopping place. There is no God other than God, the one, the unique, to whose unity in necessary existence points the witnessing of the sublimity of the comprehensiveness of the truth of opening through the unfolding of different forms of 400,000 species of living beings, perfect and without defect, according to the testimony of biology and botany. The witnessing of the sublimity of the comprehensiveness of the truth of mercifulness, all embracing and regular, without any deficiency, as the eye can see. The witnessing of the sublimity of the truth of administering that encompasses in orderly fashion all living beings without error or defect. the witnessing of the sublimity of the comprehensiveness of the truth of compassionateness and sustaining, embracing all consumers of sustenance at every time of need, without any mistake or forgetfulness. So the truth of compassionateness and sustainership, embracing all consumers of sustenance at every time of need, without any mistake or forgetfulness. Glory be unto him, the provider, the merciful, the compassionate, the solicitous, the generous. His gifts are universal and his generosity is all embracing. There is no God but he. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise. Quran chapter 2, verse 32. O our sustainer, for the sake of, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. O God, O merciful one, O compassionate one, bestow peace and blessings upon our master, Muhammad, his family and all his companions, to the number of all the letters in the Risale-i-Nur, multiplied by 10 times the number of minutes in all of our lives in this world and the hereafter, and then by the number of particles in my body throughout the course of my life. Forgive me and those who forgive me and those who aid me in sincerity in the copying and distribution or discussion of the Risale-i-Nur, and our fathers and masters, our sheikhs, our sisters, our brothers, and our sincere students of the Risale-i-Nur, particularly those who write and copy this treatise. By your mercy, O most merciful of the merciful. Amen. The conclusion of our prayer is, praise be to God, the sustainer of all the worlds.
It's a beautiful prayer, actually. Like, talks about, like, I'm just looking into it, like how detailed with the number of particles in my body throughout the course of my life. We can't even imagine it. We don't even think about it. Everything that's going on, different processes, respiratory system, digestive system, the saliva, everything, eyes. It's a lot of
system, cleansing system.
Subhanallah, right? Breathing, especially, like everything.
Reasoning system.
It just makes you want to say, repent, astaghfirullah, for not being aware of, whoever's in charge of doing all this, not being conscious of each little particle that is acting on the command of something, being it is, everything is happening in such a way. SubhanAllah, it's interesting. Okay.
Alhamdulillah, thank you. I think we can conclude here. So next
week
we'll continue, inshallah. From the next, maybe page, the 9th ray.
Can I?
You have a suggestion?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Actually, the 9th ray is about
The year after.
Yeah, it coincides with the 10th word we are studying. We are studying on
Saturday morning.
On Saturday morning. So I would suggest that we can jump to 15th ray, actually. That's my suggestion, but
okay.
The others are somehow related to some problems that the Nursi was struggling in his life. These are the examples of his life and giving us the examples of practical examples in social and political connections. But I think we should jump to the 15th ray. If I don't know, if we are not happy with it, we can really we can decide again. If anybody else has a special or any other suggestion, I'm ready to go ahead.
So it's the 15th ray good with everyone? Inshallah, you can.
HP says okay. Farah says okay. I say okay.
I say okay as well. Thank you.
All right,
So
majority.
We'll do that then. Inshallah.
Inshallah, we will prepare ourselves for 15th day. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Mm.
Okay, thank you all.
Oh, it's a long one, but
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.